Today we're going to talk about supply chain, some of the challenges that hospitals have in their supply chain. And Rich, I think that probably the number one challenge that supply chain has is time and resources, right? They are responsible for patient care, right? Getting the supplies and services to patients, helping the professionals, or the clinicians, the staff, the doctors with supplies and services. And so they're always, whether they're putting out fires or they're just running day to day, they have such a vitally important job in the organization, to support, healthcare. And I think the time and resources to be able then to manage, to look at costs, to look at other aspects is probably, I think, one of their biggest challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the size of some of the organizations, the amount of spend that's coming through the products, the services, this is a large undertaking to make sure that the patients are getting what they need at the right time. That obviously takes precedence. Mm-hmm. What happens is, though, they are so undermanned from a resource standpoint mm-hmm. that they just don't have time to put the strategic energy into really evaluating contracts and services. We deal with a lot of people day to day that they're smart, hardworking people,
and they care.
Yeah,
right.
And they care, but they're going from meeting to meeting, and many of their phone calls. I wrote about this recently, where they're doing a lot of meetings on the way to work on their cell phone, or between lunch meetings, or whatever they're doing, mm-hmm. just to try to fit everything in the day, and they're not getting everything done.
Right, and so I agree. I think that that's an enormous issue. Is that they have all these demands, and unfortunately, even some of the things we're seeing is that they're losing even people in their departments. They're losing resources, and that's really tough for I think probably one of the most important departments in a hospital to have this time and resource challenge. And I think that's number one. Right. I think the second challenge is around data analytics, and you speak quite a bit about that because the data comes from all these different sources, and how do you know the source of truth? And you talk a lot about their ability to get the data and analyze the data.
Right. And a lot of the leaders, supply chain leaders, are saying we need more analytics, we need more data. But really, at the end of the day, there's so much out there that it's a matter of putting it together. And then there's another piece that we work on, especially with purchase services, that the data is not available. There has to be a whole manual process of, mm-hmm. of pulling invoices and extracting invoices and really comparing to contracts mm-hmm. that nobody's doing because it's so time consuming. And what we talked about earlier, there's just not enough people to do it. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole piece that there's a lot of data on one side that's just too much, and there's another piece on the other side that is not enough, and they don't have the optics in it mm-hmm. to really make decisions.
Yeah, and then the structure around it, right? So getting the data from all these data sources, and then the manual part, which is none, but putting together the structure. So what should they be looking at? Should they be looking at the 50 highest cost items? Should they be looking at the 50 most used items? Should they be looking at the top 10 service items? It's like, what should they be looking at month over month? I used to work in retail in high school and in college. We would have to analyze in retail month over month, year over year, to understand what the changes are. So, we've got to look at that in healthcare. Like, what did we do last year, this month, for our highest cost items, and have that level of thinking. So it requires some thinking time and putting together structure and understanding the data. But I think data analytics is the second biggest challenge for supply chain. And the third one's a little controversial, but I'm going to say it. I think the other challenge is GPOs. And GPOs are a great tool. They are one of the tools in the toolbox. However, I think the challenge for supply chain is that they keep on pushing themselves onto hospitals and requiring more and more use, more and more compliance. And now you've got to use us for all of our services. It's not enough that they're just there as contracting. Now they've got to use all these different services. And if they don't use those services or don't expand the, how they're using on contracting, then, that becomes very aggressive. They get very upset, and so this push to use more GPOs, I think, is the other challenge, because a lot of supply chain people want to directly contract on their own. They're very talented, they're very smart, they've got the insights, and they want to be able to use the GPOs and also expand their wings and
Right.
kind of go on their own a little bit.
Right, and so we deal with a lot of vendors now. Their pricing strategy is to really utilize the GPOs in their negotiation tactics. So
Right.
we go and we identify an opportunity. We're GPO agnostic, so we're just looking for the best price and what the best opportunity is for our clients. And they'll say, well, if you disown yourself from the GPO, then you can do a local agreement, which is a big process. It's not going to happen. So they know the strategies. They're keeping themselves, with their price points, utilizing the GPOs to maintain it. And the money goes to the GPOs, and then the hospitals do get admin fees on the back end. But that admin fees are what the GPOs are getting paid from the vendors specifically.
Right. And then now they're offering other services on top of that. So I feel like that's another challenge for supply chain. Supply chain, from what we hear, is that they want to use GPOs, right? But they want to be able to use them in the context of using other resources and tools and expertise, not to be able to use them as the only source. The only way you can do this is if you use it. Our service is 100% only from us, and I think from what we hear from our supply chain professionals, that's really a challenge for them. Since 1999, we've been helping hospitals and supply chain professionals, adding resources, helping them with data analytics, helping them get the best pricing for their services and their spend outside of their GPO, utilize it in the context of their GPO, but helping hospitals save money. So we welcome a call. You can reach out to myself or Rich, and we can talk about how we can create a customized approach, collaborate together, and really put together an exceptional cost savings plan for you.